And one of the major questions when President-elect Donald Trump takes office next year is how will he plan to pull off the mass deportation of undocumented immigrants currently in the U.S. Now, we're getting new details this morning from Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan. So joining me now is Scripps News political director Andrew Rafferty. And Andrew, what do we know about Trump's deportation plans less than a month from inauguration?
Yeah, well, good morning, Holly. And this was a really interesting interview that was published this morning. Tom Homan did it with the Washington Post. Homan, of course, is a person who is essentially going to be in charge of figuring out how this works. Now, he doesn't officially oversee ICE or the border. That would be Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who, if she is confirmed next month, will be in charge of all that. But Homan is essentially the mastermind behind how what has really been a key promise from Donald Trump's campaign would execute these mass deportations. And in this interview, he said that he would bring back what is known as family detentions. Now, this is something that the Biden administration went away with. This is an idea that drew a lot of criticism for essentially having families together in these sort of detention camps, which experts and advocates say has really negative impacts on the children in terms of their development, of their learning. So the Biden administration got rid of these in the hopes of trying to do some more humane immigration policy, instead letting these families into the country with either tracking devices or keeping whereabouts of their phone, GPS, but not keeping them in any of these facilities. But what Homan said this morning, according to this interview, is that we can expect the Trump administration to sort of build up what he called soft-sided tent structures where these families would be housed. Now, of course, this would come with a number of price tag and logistics and infrastructure. And some of these details, of course, are continuing to take shape over the next few months as we prepare for Donald Trump to return to office. Homan also saying that deporting parents who are here illegally, either with their children or without, that families will have to make that decision on their own. If the children are legal U.S. citizens, he certainly is not talking about deporting anyone who's in the country legally, but this idea of either keeping families together could ultimately end up in families having to choose between them all leaving or being separated between parents and children if one of those sets is actually in the country legally. So, you know, we'll see what these plans come as they come into shape, but it does seem that, at least from what Tom Homan is saying, that Donald Trump and his administration would be seeing a greater increase of some of these detention facilities that have largely gone away under President Joe Biden, Holly.
So what else can we expect Trump to prioritize in the opening days of his administration then?
Yeah, so we were very fond of hearing Donald Trump saying in day one, he often would talk about what he would do in the opening moments of his new administration on the campaign trail. And it certainly seems that immigration is going to be a huge focus of that. And we can certainly expect on January 20th, after he's sworn in, major executive orders dealing with the border specifically. One of the other interesting things from that interview with Homan is he did acknowledge at one point that you might see illegal border crossings actually go up when Trump is expected to get rid of some of the executive actions on the border that Biden took to sort of encourage people to legally claim asylum. But he says that will be short-lived. Now, some of the other things you just saw on your screen, the economy being a huge focus, this idea of tariffs and potentially leveling what could be 10-20% tariffs on some of U.S. best allies or North American allies. We've, of course, seen him talk about that on Truth Social in the lead up to his incoming administration. Pardoning January 6th rioters is another focus that we've heard about him talk about on day one, taking action. And then some of the foreign affairs issues, specifically the war between Ukraine and Russia. But it's interesting, if you hear Donald Trump's language over the past few weeks, he's sort of backed off this idea that he would somehow solve the war and the war between Russia and Ukraine in the opening hours of his administration. He has since kind of acknowledged that some of these things are going to take a lot more work than just a couple hours of his time on day one of his new administration, Holly.
All right, Scripps News political director Andrew Rafferty, thank you for your insight. We appreciate it.